I'm telling you, in such a social society we have now, it's so easy to try to be a nice person, saying yes, yes, yes to everything. Find yourself overloaded. Now you got to call and make well, gosh, all the time it takes to back out of something that you said yes to too quickly. Here's what might be better. I don't think so, but if that changes, I'll call you. Little things you can use, not to overcommit yourself. My friend Ron Reynolds says, don't let your mouth overload your back. And if you have some weaknesses, if you doesn't seem like you can change, here's the key. Get it covered. I used to keep promising myself I'd keep the books, keep the books, keep the books. Finally, I gave that up. And back then, it only took me an extra $50, $60 a month for some accountant to keep the books. I said, no, I'm going to save the $50. You can't believe what I started losing in productivity because I tried to save the $50. So the key is, a lot of the time you can stay like you are, but just make sure you get it covered. Okay. Next, beware of the telephone and all other systems of communication, especially the telephone at home and systems of communication at home. And here's one of the best lines I've got for you for the weekend. Let all communication systems serve you, but don't let them intrude. When it comes time to have dinner with your family, you shut off all systems. Don't let the phone ring. Don't let anybody intrude, come through the front door nor the back door, nor through the telephone or any other device. So you can't reach John and his family when he's having dinner. The President of the United States couldn't get through. If you develop that kind of a reputation, father, mother, when we have dinner, when we're visiting and helps. So don't let these clever little devices keep intruding. You've got to have a place that's sacrosanct. It's valuable. You don't let anything in for that period of time. Okay. Isn't that good advice? Excellent advice.
The quality of your life is largely determined by in all successful relationships, the partners will always say that they communicate extremely well. And wherever communications break down or slow down or don't take place, you start to have problems. And one of the keys to effectiveness in the world of work is your ability to communicate effectively and well. In fact, even if you work in technical fields like computer programming or engineering, you spend as much as 75% of your time communicating and interacting with other people. So your effectiveness as a person is determined by your effectiveness in getting your message across and in getting the message clearly that the other person is sending. And by the way, there's two forms of communications. The first form is your interpersonal communications, the way you talk to yourself and dialogue with yourself and think and plan to yourself. And the other form of communications is the way you interact with others. And of course, one affects the other.
And wonderfully enough, how to communicate is a learned skill. And you can get better and better at it by learning what the best communicators do and practicing it until it becomes a regular part of your repertoire. Number one, there are three elements to any conversation. A, words only account for 7% of the message. When you talk, it's only 7% is the words. That's why they say in speaking, people will forget most of what you say, but they will remember the way you said it. And B is the tone of voice.
The mere tone of your voice accounts for fully 38% of your message. And if you're on the phone, it counts for almost 80% of your message, maybe even more. When you want to sound friendly, warm, reassuring, intimate, or caring when you speak, keep your voice in the lower range where the deeper sounds are. The lower to middle tones are also great when you want to reason with the other person or show that you care or that you're being thoughtful. Also, remind yourself to slow down. It's very difficult to be close, friendly, warm, or thoughtful when you're speaking too quickly. Most of us tend to slow down naturally when we're expressing our deeper emotions, except for maybe anger. And when you slow it down, your voice tones actually drop and it becomes lower and more gentle. Powerful people, by the way, deliberately speak more slowly and with lower tones. They slow it down and they pause. And this gives their words power, and people pay more attention to them.
Women, by the way, are very sensitive to tones of voice and to very tiny changes in tones of voice. How many men have heard this? I know I have. When I said, well, I just said this, she said, it's not what you said. It's your tone of voice. So, tone of voice is important, and that's why we need to give some thought to it, because if we're in a hurry or busy or rushed, sometimes our tone of voice can be clipped or short, and it can be hurtful. C is body language accounts for fully 55% of your communication. And the rule is that people believe the dominant message. What message is dominant? For example, if you say, do you love me? Yeah, sure, I love you. Do people believe the words or the dominant message, which is the body language and the tone of voice? But if you say, yes, I love you, then they believe the totality. And that's why the very best message is a message that is synchronized. The words, the tone of voice, and the body are all synchronized to the message. Very important. That's why when somebody talks to you, it's important you turn toward them and face them directly when you talk to them and listen closely to what they say and nod and pay attention. That's very important than saying, yeah, I'm listening, over the back of your shoulder.
I was reading a book yesterday about a woman who was very, very unhappy because her husband never gave her any indication that he loved her and supported her, because he was always watching television. And you ask the husband, he said, sure, I love her. I think she's the most important person in the world. Well, then why don't you spend time with her? Well, I do. I'm in the house all the time. I come home after work every night. Well, no, that's not how women measure love. So the most important thing in your relationships with your spouse and with your children is FaceTime. There's a great book called His Needs, Her Needs. And they talk about the 10 major needs that men have and the 10 major needs that women have, alternating back and forth. And all women know what man's first need is, so let's talk about hers. And her first need is for attention, affection, and respect. Face to face, eye to eye, heart to heart, knee to knee, attention, affection, and respect. Those are the biggest needs. And if she gets those needs fulfilled, then everything else will be fine. If she does not get those needs fulfilled, she's going to be unhappy. And men think, well, geez, I'm in the same house, I'm watching TV. No, the only time you are actually with the woman in your world is when you're face to face and giving them attention and listening to them when they talk and giving them affection and respect. So FaceTime, and there's a one-to-one relationship between how much FaceTime you spend and what quality of life you have. So it's really important that you don't have FaceTime accidentally. You plan it, you schedule it, you organize, and the busier you are, the more you have to make appointments.
Well, number 2, there are 3 parts of any conversation. A, the first part of conversation is ethos. Ethos has to do with the character of the person. A person who has high character can say little and be enormously influential. Emerson said, what you are shouts at me so loudly I can't hear a word you're saying. A person like Mother Teresa could say a few words and change a person's life. A person with limited character just doesn't have the same effect. B is pathos. Pathos is the second part of communication. It means connecting with the emotions. And we connect with the emotions when we tune in and focus in on the person and their problems and their needs. Always remember, people are carrying a heavy load. There was a wonderful line I read that said, if every person who complains about their problems could come from all corners of the earth and take and pile their problems in a heap, and if each person could see the size and gravity of the problems of others, they would sneak forward shamefacedly and take their petty problems away and creep into the night. And I think it's an interesting thing when you consider that we have problems, but so many other people have vastly greater problems than us. And when you tune in to other people's problems and concerns, it's amazing how much better your life is. And C is logos, is the factual content of the conversation. And the factual content is often the least important. But until you have established character and connected with the emotions of the other person, the words you say, the argument, is really not relevant. In selling, what do we say? In selling, you establish rapport, which is the character. You seek the underlying problem or need, which is connecting with the pathos. And only then do you talk about your product or service, which is the logos. And in dealing with anybody in life, It's those three. Number 3 is there are 4 basic personality styles. The first is who we call relators.
The relator is very high on people orientation and indirect. They are quiet, self-contained, not particularly expressive. They're sensitive, people-oriented, and concerned about other people's opinions. Now, in the extreme, a relator will be hypersensitive to the opinions of others. They can't do anything without making sure that everybody else approves. They have to talk with everybody before they make a decision. If you're communicating, this person requires slow, low-key, easygoing, friendly, almost warm and fuzzy. So if you're dealing with relators, you have to go slow and you have to be patient. You can't be pushy because they like time to make decisions and they need time to talk to other people. Their greatest concern in life is, let's get along, let's all be friends. Relators tend to gravitate toward fields where relators are most effective. So you find relators in fields like nursing, social services, teaching, small child development, psychology, personnel, or counselors where they relate to other people.
Now the next type of person is the analyzer.
Now the analyzer is indirect and self-contained, but very task-oriented. This is the kind of person who's not so much concerned about people, but more concerned about doing the job and are more inward-directed. This type of person at the extreme can be an uncommunicative bureaucrat, very meticulous and picky about every detail. Their primary concern is, let's be accurate. They only feel comfortable when the numbers and the details are correct. The analyzer, who is fastidious and detail-oriented, wants accuracy and just the facts. Now, where do you think they'll gravitate to in terms of work? Well, they'll gravitate toward accounting, computers, engineering, bookkeeping, computer programming, any field where the problems don't talk back. When you're dealing with an analyzer, concentrate on giving them lots of detail because this is what makes them comfortable with a decision.
Now the third type of person is what we call the director.
The director, these people are bottom line oriented, impatient. They make quick decisions and they don't need a lot of detail. They're most concerned with let's get results, get to the bottom line, cut to the chase. Now, who do you think would read the most copies of People magazine so far? Well, the relator. Who do you think is reading Success Magazine, Business Week, Forbes, and Success books and Success audio programs? It's the director, the go-getter, the one who kicks you-know-what and then takes names. The fourth type of personality is what we call the socializer, and sometimes they're called expressive. They like to express themselves a lot. The socializer is outgoing, direct, voluble, and very people-oriented. This person's primary motivation is achievement, and achievement with and through other people. They like to talk about achievement. What are you doing? How did you do it? How did it work? Let me tell you what I did and how it worked for me. Many times they become managers or executives because they have highly integrated personalities. They're very concerned about results, but they're also concerned about people. They have both a strong focus on people and a very strong focus on achievement and getting things done. Now, everybody you meet is in one of these 4 quadrants or groups. The mistake that most people make is that they treat everyone else as if they were just the same as they were. If you're in sales, by the way, you will miss 3/4 of your potential prospects because you'll treat them all the way you are. However, no matter which style of communicator you are, 3/4 of the people you meet are something else. Now, there's no right or wrong, better or worse style. These are almost born into people. You can see them in children from an early age. However, your job in asking questions and listening to people is to find out which style they are and then to practice personality flexibility so that you can get along with a greater number of different types of people. Here's one more thing. Whatever style you are, the person you are the most ideal for would be the exact opposite. Nature demands balance in temperament. Nature demands that the opposite person in the relationship or the marriage be temperamentally balanced with you. Notice that when you think about your personality and the personality of your spouse.